What's going on there, folks? Good evening. It is the Earthmaster here on the live stream with an update video on this Thursday evening, March 24th. 2022 is the date, about 8:06 p.m. California time. Latest quake on the globe shows earthquake around the region of, well, where'd it go? Right here. Spinning around, round and round we go. Indonesia area. And the activity up here around the Philippine plate showing some movement just south of Taiwan. A 3.3 earthquake striking the region just now. Quite a bit of earthquake activity ramping up here. Let's go ahead and check this out real quick. On the earthquake map here, stand by for just 1 second. We'll see if we can pull this up as we look at the latest data here from the Usgs map. Showing that earthquake activity on the map here, past 2.5 and above over the last 24 hours. Let's see if I can get rid of this taskbar here real quick. Not for sure why it's doing that. It's kind of a little on the odd side. I'm still having some computer issues and some interference from some outside folks attempting to shut down the stream once again. There's the latest earthquake here, at least on the USGS map, shows a 4.5 in the Indonesia area, right around the Banda Sea. Seeing quite a bit of activity here on the western side of the Pacific Ring of Fire, including some activity still here up in Japan, and also some deeper movement here underneath Japan at 115 kilometers of 4.5 earthquake, and some a little bit more shallow earthquake here offshore, with a couple fours there in the 40 to 50 kilometer range earthquake, or the depth of those earthquakes there. Another deep earthquake here on the north side, 135 kilometers for 4.4. So a lot of deep movement has been happening here since we've seen that larger quake strike here last week. Of course, we had that 7-pointer strike, right? The 7.3 earthquake. That was about 63 kilometers deep here off the coast of Japan. It's been over a year since we've seen anything in the 7.0 range here in the Japan area, so that was kind of building up there, looking like it was kind of took a little while, but it did come as expected. But also we're getting some further deep movement following that 7.3 here in this area, looking at the return of buildup of stress and accumulated stress here in this region. Down south here along the Philippines here, west of Manila, we're seeing a swarm of activity here. A couple fours, some upper fours happening here at about 10 kilometers deep. Got to watch this area pretty closely here, looking at the last 7 days of movement. Most of the regional earthquake activity has been up here to the north, but if you look at the 7.3 that struck here in Japan over a week ago now, that kind of put a lot of heightened pressure up here to the west. And that includes areas south here of Japan into the Taiwan area, where we've seen that 6-pointer strike. And now we're starting to see the migration here further south here west of Manila. So Philippines could be possibly under the gun, all due to the subsequent movement up here along the northwestern part of the Pacific Ring of Fire. The Pacific plate holds a lot of pressure, and that westward movement here with the subduction zone adding to the further stress in the region west here, and that includes the Philippine plate and areas to the west of this area. So a couple fours. Got to watch this area pretty closely here, folks. Let's go back to the all magnitudes. Further south, Indonesia area, seeing some movement, some deeper activity as well along the area around the Banda Sea. Couple earthquakes here, pretty deep, 139 and 121 kilometer deep earthquake within that region. Southern end of the Java Trench of 4.8, and some movement up and down the Papua New Guinea, Vanuatu, and areas in the Tonga region. We did see some further deep movement, once again, at least one of them, here in the Fiji Islands area, just south of Fiji, 4.5 at 534 kilometers. That's pretty deep, folks. Working our way west. Let's go ahead and check out this activity here. Look at that movement in the Texas area, just striking within the last hour. In fact, within about the last 10 minutes. Looks like 0301. Let me double check this time stamp here. And yeah, within the last 10 minutes or so, we've seen an earthquake strike into the area of Japan. Looks as though I'm kind of looking at the live seismographs on this view, at least on my end. Let me back out of here and show you guys. Getting an earthquake coming into the Japan area right now. Not for sure how large it is. We'll come back and check on that here in just a second. But looking at the seismographs, seen a pretty good sized earthquake kick up here in the Japan region. Let's go ahead and go back to the map with that 4.3 earthquake. I tell you what, folks, there's a lot of potential out here to see some larger earthquakes. Good thing this is not a highly populated region when it comes to the operations that go on. What do I mean by operations? Well, let's go ahead and check it out once again, shall we? Let's go to the satellite view. There is quite a bit of oil and pumping operation fields out here. A lot of injection wells. These are all pumping operations and subsequent little ponds for the injection of wastewater down deep, about 6 to 9 kilometer deep injection here, just to the northeast of this 4.3 earthquake. There's hundreds of them, and this area has been under the gun for quite some time. This is no doubt firmly related to the natural gas, or not natural gas, but the oil and the pumping operations out here in the region. There is definitely some earthquake, or at least mountain ranges out here, some older ones, Delaware Mountains. So there is some fault systems out here, but there's also a whole bunch of those oil well operations going on, and this is kind of in the mix of all of that, all of those operations. Let's check out the last 30 days of movement here, and you can see clear as a bell. We can go back months back and see this thing blow up like crazy, but 114 earthquakes in this Texas area of Pecos, Texas, northwest of Pecos, Texas. I want to show you guys 4.5 and above. There's nothing above 4.5. And the 2.5 and above, I believe this 4.3 is the largest so far within the last 30 days. It looks like there was another 4.3 here just to the east. So some of these earthquakes, they can definitely get pretty big when it comes to the general stress and the subsequent damage that is being induced out here due to the oil and wastewater injection wells out here. Is it something to worry about? Absolutely. If you live out here in this area of the state of Texas, I mean, I get it. There's money in all of this, but also at the same time, there's subsequent consequences when it comes to all the oil and the wastewater injection wells out here. It's just the damage is done. Some of this earthquake activity that we're seeing today and over the past 30 days could be from old injection wells and oil operations from years ago. So all these other newer ones that we're looking at here on the map and all over Texas and Oklahoma and Kansas, their time is coming. We'll definitely see earthquake activity ramp up there in given time. But it's I don't know. I mean, do we just accept it, or do we kind of look at this and say, hey, what are we doing out here? Is this something to look at and maybe put a stop to? There's definitely been a lot of research and whatnot when it comes to this, but there's definitely a whole lot of earthquake activity that's taken place due to these operations. And fortunate enough, though, there's not a high populated area out here of folks, luckily, because a 4.3 can kind of do possibly a little bit of damage if you're right underneath the epicenter of the 4.3. It looks like it was felt up in Carlsbad, New Mexico, at least by a couple people up there. Some light shaking going on. So Gotta watch out. Definitely gotta watch out. Mankind has definitely found itself in a position of the teeter-totter effect here on what do we do? Do we go with the, the normal operations, or maybe do we back down and take a look at the Earth and what we're doing to it? Hopefully things calm down out there. Let's go ahead and check out eastern part of the country. Looks pretty quiet, folks. 1.7 out there around Marston, Missouri area. That's the New Madrid zone. Someone asked why there's not any fault systems out here on the USGS map. That's kind of a good idea. I mean, that's kind of a most of California has quite a bit of fault systems out here, and the USGS normally focuses on the western areas. The New Madrid zone obviously does not show a fault system out here, but they do provide a fault hazard map, and that covers a good portion of the area around the New Madrid zone. So, but far as specifically U.S. faults, yeah, I'm not for sure why they don't include this area in their system, but that's the USGS. Southern California, not a whole lot going on here, folks, in the southern part of the state. This is very typical microquake activity in the southern part. Once we get up here to Northern California, we're seeing a little bit of activity, a little swarm around the Milpitas area, looking just like it's right off the Calaveras fault system, a little southern end of it. Not a whole lot going on in Northern California, but look up here. What do we have up here in northwestern Nevada? Kind of funny, because a few years ago I was up here investigating a swarm a little bit further south into the Sheldon National Antelope Refuge area. Seeing a pretty good swarm of earthquake activity, so I kind of went up there to investigate what was going on. I didn't find too much, but this activity is a little bit north of there, but still within the Sheldon study area. So we're looking at about 19 earthquakes over the last 24 hours, including a 2.8 earthquake. So these earthquakes are kind of ramping up in the northwestern part of Nevada. The majority of them are really shallow at 0 kilometers. But in the mix, we see at least one earthquake down there deep. Getting some deep earthquake activity. It has been reviewed, so this depth here stands at 9 kilometers. So I'm not 100% certain what's going on out here with this activity. There is definitely volcanic activity here in the area historically, and I've seen that firsthand when I went out there to the region. But this area, it's kind of hard to say what's going on here. Definitely have to keep an eye on it. Any type of swarm in any area is something to take note of. But it's about 20 earthquakes or so, 2.8 the largest in this swarm here in northwest Nevada. Got to watch that pretty closely. Intermountain West region, seen some activity stretching northwest of Las Vegas. That's a long drive, let me tell you. Me and Miss Mimi's traveled back from Texas here yesterday, and that's an extensive long drive through the desert. But I tell you what, gas much cheaper through that region than it is in California. And yes, we did stop at the Area 51 store, just FYI. A little bit of movement through Utah and the Montana area. Seeing a little swarm of activity into northern Montana. Let's go ahead and check out the latest map here from the Yellowstone overview. And not a whole lot of activity showing up on here at all. Although some movement over here further east, it looks like, on the eastern side of the park. Low earthquake here. But not really seeing it showing up here once again on the USGS map. I don't see any distant earthquake activity here in Nevada, or at least Idaho or Montana, that would explain this movement here on the eastern side of the park. So starting to get into some suspicious earthquake activity once again along the Yellowstone areas here east. But as far as any localized earthquake activity, at least here on the map, as far as swarming goes, I don't see it at the moment. Not a whole lot going on aside from that little earthquake activity. Let's see, Washington, some activity around the Mountain Hood area once again, and the Mount St. Helens region. Let's go ahead and check out the latest trimmer map here from the USGS. Stands at 0 once again. We did have a few days, or no, I shouldn't say a few, a couple days of some strong epicenters of trimmer. This back on the 20th was about the strongest I've seen in a little while. 370 epicenters of trimmer along the almost in the entire section of the Cascadia, north to south. I'm starting to wonder now, with the lack of trimmer, if we are not able to, the trimmer, you got to have a substantial amount of pressure here along the Cascadia subduction zone to pretty much allow trimmer and buildup. I'm just wondering if we've come to the area where we're not able to subduct anymore, where it's pretty much locked and loaded, not only in the locked area but in the subduction zone, to where we're seeing the activity really ramp up here on the inland North American plate. That includes the swarming activity in Nevada and other areas throughout the Intermountain West region. That could be what we're seeing due to the lack of trimmer. So it's something we got to watch pretty closely. But over the last few days, it's been pretty darn quiet. This was from the 20th with 370 epicenters of trimmer. The Alaska Range, pretty quiet. Some movement out here along the Alaska Trench at 4.3. A little bit of activity around the globe. Wow, look at this. Very quiet throughout the Mediterranean Sea, the Middle East, areas around China, all subsequently very, very quiet. That could be why we're seeing the back building of pressure out here along the North American plate. We're pretty much stranded over here, locked, so to speak, and the only thing that can happen over here is further stress and the earthquake activity that we're seeing on the North American plate. Let's see what else we got here. Earthquakes Canada map. We'll check those folks out here real quick. And some movement up here into the BC area. There's some activity offshore, it looks like, along the Cascadia subduction zone. Cascadia sits off here off the west coast of the Port McNeil area. Got a 3.0 coming in there at about 10 kilometers, and some further activity building up here into the Juan de Fuca plate, northern end, just west and just shy of the Cascadia. So the USGS does not show that for whatever reason, but I think it plays a major part in the possibility of a mega quake here along the Cascadia. I think the USGS should definitely include the activity that's occurring off here, off the coast of Canada more often. Movement into the Mile House, BC area. Looks like a 3.4 at 10 kilometers. The rest of the Canada map looks pretty quiet as far as local activity goes and as far as recent movement goes in that area. Go ahead and check out the solar weather department here real quick. And it's been a while since I checked it. I haven't checked this since I left for Texas last week. Looks like some sunspot activity rebuilding. There's a coronal hole directly facing us, somewhat of a good size one. Pretty bleak in sunspots, but look around the bend there. There's quite a bit of sunspot activity building. Look at 2976. That thing is massive. So we're going to have to watch this sunspot activity pretty closely. The flare threat level, at least from these folks, looks pretty minimal at 50% chance, but I think there's more of a chance of seeing an M flare with that mixture of activity there. Got to watch that. Nothing on the geomagnetic forecast. At least these guys calling for green skies. Well, lack of no green skies, right? Green across the board. That means no green skies. Let's see. All right, folks, I'm going to jump off here. I did upload a video from the our tornado intercept on Monday. and also a little bit more of our search and rescue from that night. Pretty extensive damage throughout the area where we were in East Central Texas. That was in Madisonville, Texas area. Quite a bit of homes being destroyed from that tornado. We got pretty lucky. I think we just got the Madisonville, Texas tornado as it was just touching down. We did technically intercept it, and I lifted up the back end of my car. It was kind of scary, but we survived, and it just, I think we need to count our lucky stars that tornado was not stronger when it passed over us. But anyway, I did upload about a 16-minute long video onto the channel, and it includes the search and rescue operations. There's a lot more in there, but I didn't want to make it super extensive. Portions of the video are lacking audio, and that was because of a little bit of, sometimes when you're under stress and you're looking at devastation, the profanities come out a little bit, so I cut that out of the video. So there's a little segment in there with no audio. But yeah, kind of a pretty crazy ordeal. 4.3 just coming in now into the Philippine Plate area, Western Philippine Plate. Remember all the 7-point, the larger earthquake here that we seen last week, and the movement around Taiwan. This area right here is pretty much under the gun from the west, or I should say from the east, headed west, with this large Pacific Plate here, putting the Philippine Plate underneath an extreme amount of stress. Got to watch this area around the Manila and the Philippines area in general with this increasing earthquake activity. So, all right, folks, make sure you guys watch that video. I will include it as an update, or not an update, but the what to watch next. There's that earthquake there in Japan on the live seismographs. So, all right, guys, have a good night. Stay safe out there, and we will be... wow, looks like they upgraded that earthquake to 4.4 in the Texas area. All right, guys, peace out. Stay safe out there, and we will chat you guys another time. Peace out.